Thank you for that. It's okay.
Hi guys, just looking to see if you can hear me.
I'm gonna say we should give this delicious tea with lemon. But some things were accomplished.
Oh, that's good.
I don't remember what they are, but I remember they were.
It is 1 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. So do you have any introductions we need to make today?
I will just mention that Mandy and Britta are joining us. We're able to make it in today.
Hello.
So has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda for today? Can I get a motion to approve?
Oh, I have one addition, I'm sorry. We need to talk about the international conference.
Just as a G. I'll move to accept the amended agenda.
Second.
Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes from October?
I just have one thing. I'm from Westfield, Washington, not Noble County.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know if you want to move my name from the top of the list to the guests present.
Any other amendments?
I'll make
a
motion to.
Approve the amended minutes.
I'll second.
Now that our minutes have been moved and seconded, let's move on to the Indiana State Library report. All right.
Actually, when we met last, we were ramping up things for the Hackaway. That went off very nicely this year. We had 21 participants. We were actually down we were down a full agency. One consortium was not able to send anybody, but we still had really good attendance before. And then some of the feedback we received after the fact was that this was probably the most productive Hackaway they've had yet. And as a result of how well we've handled it, they've decided to actually make it a longer event in the future. So,
Is it in Georgia next year?
yes. Yes, and I actually want to talk about that, what we can do some of the money, because we do have that as a line item for when we can't find somebody to host. The Hackaway is moving to Atlanta though, so it'll be warm for the Hackaway next year. We were on, say it was going to be next week after the last meeting. We brought on Ohio Township. They've been live now for about 6 weeks. They've done an outstanding job dealing with the fact that they've come on exclusively with the Webclient, so they've gotten to find a few extra things along the way for us. But their staff has done an outstanding job. They've been very flexible. They've worked with us. All state library staff actually in attendance at the over to go live. We trained for 2 days prior to the go live, and then on go live day we had PDO representatives joining us, so that we had people at all 3 sites to work with staff. And it seemed to go really well. The patrons are picking up and using it, and I'm looking forward to actually seeing our circulation numbers and seeing how that's playing out. So that was on the 19th, and here we go with everybody else currently in, I am missing one, whoops. These are the 4 libraries that are cataloging in. So Knightstown is just about done. They're doing a final shelf check, and the only thing that they have left, most of what they have left at this point is their special or local history collection, and that's the one that we don't require them to have in place before we can set a go live. But they've got a volunteer staff of, I believe, 3 or 4 Cat 1 catalogers now. So they've been trucking right along.
And is it Linda that's their
Yes,
interim
Linda
director?
Davis is the interim. Spiceland let me know last week that the director there is retiring. She will not be there after probably January. So that is probably going to put their migration process on hold since they may have to close the library. The only other staff that works there is only there 10 hours a week. So they are actively looking for a new director, but their funding situation will probably make that a bit of a challenge. Swayze's training along. They've been very quiet. Haven't heard much. I need to actually check in with them, make sure things are going well. But their numbers continue to rise. And Walker's and Lincoln Township, they are both of the staff are actively working, but this is the thing that's really keeping them distracted at the moment. Their brand new building. So the foundation was laid just 6 weeks ago. So they're making a lot of progress. This is a picture from the last week in November. These 4 libraries between them have cataloged a little over 26,500 items as of today. That's another 5,000 or so over where we were when we met last. Things have slowed down, but with the holidays and ILF and everything else, it was bound to a bit. The one that I have failed to put on here, and I owe them an apology, is Whiting Public Library. It'll be migrating in February. I need to actually sit down with Rachel and set a date for that. They're currently rebar coding a portion of their collection, which was under an old scheme. We are actually making progress on acquisitions, I promise. Done trainings now with West Lafayette and Noble County. At this point, everybody's looking at a Q1 go live when they'll actually be implementing this. Be training Ohio Township tomorrow morning. They have not been on acquisitions, so for them it's very important to actually be up and running. So they want everything completely ready to go January 2nd. So we're going to see just how far we can get. And then I'm coordinating with Monica down at Jackson County to get their training scheduled for January so that they can be up and running in Q1 as well. The Transting Video Disc Pilot, we are now officially 3/4 in. 111 systems have received video disc transit. That means just about every public library has received at least one. We currently have 44 systems shipping. Just under 48,000 remote circulations since the project started. The collection is up to 79,000 items. So this is expanding. Is one of the few complaints I still hear from patrons on occasion is that they wish everybody would just do it so that they didn't have to wonder. But the same thing happens with books. So part is just getting patrons used to that expectation.
Question about this as it pertains to the library side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an appropriate time to ask about it?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't either. We've had several issues of libraries not packaging the DVDs. Just shipping them back.
I received my first report of that, no, second report of that Friday.
Do we go directly to the library? Do we go through you? How do we?
In that, well, what I've been having happen, and I think this works well, just so I can, if it helps me know who I need to reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
If you can loop me in, that would be great. But
CC you on the email? Okay.
yeah, part of it is we have a lot of new staff, lot of new staff around the state right now.
Sure.
And I'm wondering whether all of the transiting procedures are
Getting everything trained.
adequately trained. Yes. So have We have one library that completely turned over their entire staff
Okay.
in a 2-3 month period.
Oh, wow. Well, that's gonna make
That's
some
gonna
short
have
course of
effect.
training. Yeah, okay. Okay.
This particular project was also very heavily impacted by monographic parts. We continue to fight with that issue, but the cataloging community has made that a priority, and we are seeing a lot of that start to ease. But I had a call from a member of the public yesterday who was rather frustrated because they've been trying for an hour to place a hold, and it came down to monographic parts. So it's something we do need to continue to look at as a highly important effort. Here's just a brief bar chart. It looks like I like pretty colors. So look at how much progress we've made. And I think it's pretty awesome. December, we're only 12 days in. This is this morning, so technically there's only 11 days worth of circulation, and it's almost as many as that first month. So it's definitely popular with the patrons. Although as I remind people, when you compare this to your total Blu-ray circulation, it's not even peanuts.
Right.
So top lenders and top borrowers mostly stay the same. There was a little bit of jostling around as to who was in which position, but this does look at everything since inception. So
and we did just join the party. We are now lending all of our stuff. So now that we can be hopefully a top lender and a top borrower. So
there you go.
Cool.
yeah. It only seemed right. If we're gonna borrow that much, we should lend. So.
Oh, I just remembered something I forgot to put on the agenda. Perhaps this would be an okay time to chat about it. You guys have any feedback on libraries that are providing secondary shipping materials or alternate shipping cases?
You mean when they put a note on it and say, return with this item?
Yeah.
Didn't we, years ago, we discussed that, and we told people not to do that?
Yeah, I think that there are some, like what Newton County is doing where it's not like a box that it's
It's circulated with the item.
yeah, that where you circulate with the item. I'm okay with that, but this thing, well, save this box here and then
Yeah.
put it back in there.
This was something we duped out years and years, and we said we're not going to be bothered to honor that stuff.
Well,
Right.
we can't control where a person turns something in
Yeah.
either. So
Right.
I mean, with us, half of our stuff doesn't get turned back into us. So
Yeah, we don't have storage units
Right,
for
it's
each
kind of like-
library.
yeah.
Right.
One of the libraries I know is providing them, the language on it asks you to reuse. They don't necessarily ask you to use it to ship back to them. So, and I know they're using theirs not just within Evergreen, but also within Circs. That's one of the reasons they acquired Fox.
Maybe they need to look at their language.
Well, that's,
I
like,
guess.
I don't have a problem with that. I think that's great. It's
Right.
probably a frustration to them because they're all gonna go out and they're not gonna get them back. And it's their
Yeah.
funds
Yeah.
that they've used to purchase those. Very small, and I only have a few of these, and it's frustrating to us, so I can't imagine how frustrating it is.
See, I think that was
larger.
the issue that came up, is that, at the time, we at Alexandria would have no place to store
Right.
all
Right.
this stuff,
Yeah.
we weren't going to store that for people.
Since I failed to get it on the agenda, perhaps I could send you an amendment to the pilot policy that suggests that unless it can be circulated with the materials, shipping, packaging may be used throughout the consortium without necessarily direct return to the originating library.
I'd agree
Yeah.
with that.
Okay. I will put something together and send that out to you. I apologize for skipping that. That's been on my list for weeks because I heard from several people all at once about it. Okay, development. There is a lot of development going on. The Hackaway was, as I said, everyone was extremely industrious. There was a lot of work done. This particular project has not changed significantly. The one exception would be the specs were received on the final option and the groups moved forward with implementation. on the new printing and email options from the catalog. And that's something that will be patron facing, not just staff facing. Hopefully, you guys were able to participate in this. We came into their development survey with a bang. Kathy was approving people left and right, actually, while we were at the Hackaway, trying to add all of the Indiana people who wanted to vote on things. So we were very enthusiastic in our voting, which is excellent because that's how they know what's of interest. These were the top 10 projects for Indiana. We actually had a lot of things we were interested in, and it showed. But these were the top 10. Of those, a fair number ended up on the projects that were finally selected for 2018. So the number one was having the system auto retarget holes when things are marked missing. Because right now you have to either wait or you have to go in and force it. This would just make that part of the natural workflow. Adding a test notification method, so if you want to make sure that the email gets to them, that you want to check their texting number to make sure that it actually reaches them. You could do that on the spot while the person's standing there. Automatically update hold notifications when a patron's information is updated. The addition of an inventory module. This is one that we've already been chatting about at length on the listserv. Editable patron notes and the ability to consolidate all the various message interfaces, because right now there's about 4 different places you can see aspects and notes and alerts, and so they're talking about coming up with a unified editor where you can just mark the type so that it affects where and who can see it. Improved spine level printing, that's one I know the catalogers have had on the list since the get-go, but that is coming. Automatic notification of orphan holds. That means that if an item is marked lost, missing, etc., anybody else on the holds list for that item will receive an email. We will not be able to fill your hold. So that they can either request purchase or go out and find an alternate edition. Editable copy notes. That's one that the catalogers, I believe, are relatively enthused about. Number 9, we don't really worry about too much just because we don't use serials, so, but it is very important for the libraries that do. And then the last one you can't see on my screen right now because is something we've actually asked for before, and that's the ability to basically do cluster searching where you can choose a geographic distance to search within.
Nice.
So. For the 10 projects they have selected to try to get done in 2018. Those are the smaller projects. Now, with that, of course, is the big overarching, how do we make search better, easier, friendlier, faster? And the committee representatives for that will be meeting this week to start identifying how we want to do that. So that meeting is on Thursday. Multi-labeled search was supposed to start being developed in January. They told us they didn't have time to work on it, and then Mike had light bulb go off during the Hackaway, and he wrote the code right there on the spot. So it was done in one afternoon, which was wonderful. So right now we're actually testing it, making sure it does all the things that we want and all the ways that we want. So far, the testing that I've done has gone really well, and testing closes this week. So
This is Mike Rhinelander.
Sorry?
Yes, I'm Mike from
the thing that we should have this in place pretty early in the new year. It will officially drop into master, I believe, 3.1. So, but it is nice. I like it. It also looks pretty cool to see all the things that we actually have in all the different languages that we do. Because Jason fixed languages, so when you search by language, it pulls up the main language for things. But one of the things I noticed when I was first trying to demonstrate that particular feature was that an incredible number of the materials that we have that are in one world language contain a variety of things. We have a lot of world music, for example, where it represents the entire continent. So this will actually make the search much friendlier for anybody who's doing research across any of that. Or if you have somebody in your community who's looking for specific languages for their films, that will help too. The library tour is technically done, the actual traveling part of it. We hit up 116 library systems. I decided to go ahead and count all the migrating libraries because we did visit them all this year. We were usually there working on some aspect of their migration, but we were there. So 163 locations. We were on the road for either all of or part of. There were some days it was just an afternoon and we were able to work in with other stops along the way, but it took 31 days. The map has been pretty popular. I know there's a lot of people who are interested to see what we can do with all of the pictures and information we've collected. So I'm going to be working on an executive report to give to you guys in February. So it's going to take me a little while to get all of that put together. Actually, this side of the room joined us at least one visit. Nancy and Scott were with us for 3 days, and Rita was able to join us one morning while we were visiting some of the libraries, representing you guys on the EC. And the common themes, that has not actually changed a whole lot. If anything, it continued to be reinforced as we continue to visit libraries, stories about their joining Evergreen, how good a resource it is, how helpful it's been over time, and things that we need and things that we know about ourselves. So be trying to compile all that along with all the lists of all the programs. Sorry?
Talk about a get-go item. Talk about a get-go item.
The report.
That's from day one. That's
Yeah. So cute.
Yeah, that list was in no particular order.
Just because it was the last day out of it. The ethics audit is still pending, enough to actually work on the paperwork. So I will still get it done. We continue to upgrade regularly as new patches are released and releases. Turnaround is what?
That's whenever I feel like it. So, so for instance, we were running 302 the day before it was released because they weren't going to add anything else to it. So
you felt like it.
yes.
Can I quote?
Basically, anytime there's something that I think people will immediately notice or get benefit from, 'cause there are some things that aren't worth fooling with. You might let them stack up a couple weeks, but there are a few bugs that whenever I see any movement on those, that's when we'll upgrade. So.
I have a list of bugs myself. Launchpad lets you actually stalk bugs for anything that comes in on other comments, progress, sends you an email, so you have to go read all things. Yeah, keeping a close eye on several of those. As I said, Ohio Township is using the Webclient exclusively. I've been talking to people and it's going to run the gamut. We're going to have people who January 2nd are going to say, that's it, we're done, we're over. And I have others where I think they will probably be using it right up until the day when it's no longer available. So into it, hopefully with as few bugs as possible, still hindering us by the time things are officially closed. All of the basic classes have been rewritten or drafted and have been out once now. I have several notes, things that I need to fix, add, change. So I will be doing that before it's taught again next quarter. Also, I'm planning on trying to make the trainings a priority, the asynchronous trainings a priority for this next year, because that was some of the feedback I got. People were pleased that it was offered as a webinar this round, but then told me it was too difficult to schedule. So going to have to get the asynchronous stuff done.
I will say about the asynchronous training, this is anecdotal from my staff, that it takes them longer.
Yeah.
But I noticed that they're learning more.
Okay.
So
Well, I mean, there's more reinforcement that goes on with having.
that's exactly what they said, and not exactly how they said it.
But then we do have the one last class here before the end of the year, so.
So that does bring up a point though, and
Yes.
right now they're one LEU. Is
What
that
are?
correct? I'm talking, I think this was basic circulation.
No, that's 3.
Okay, that was 3.
Yeah. It's 3
Okay.
hours.
Okay. Then I'm gonna need to clarify with the staff person.
Okay.
She's like, well, it
Yeah,
took me
no.
3 hours and it was 1 LEU. I was like, oh.
No,
Okay.
no, it's actually basically the time of presentation.
Right, that's what I figured, yeah.
If you took all 4 classes, and I had some people who did, they get 10 hours for the week.
Great.
The upgrade and feature review, because there is so much to it, it's probably also going to be 2 rather than 1. Historically, I've kept it to 1 hour, but I don't think we're going to keep it that short. So it's scheduled for 2. I have a couple of upcoming community surveys to provide feedback on discussions we've been going through with either in committee or in the community. The hourly cert mod, that's come down to we just need to actually pick what hour settings and any additional things that need to go into that. Obviously, you're not going to transit something that only circulates on an hourly basis, but holdability and things like that. So that's going to a community survey. The other thing is the discussion of whether or not to start transiting VHS.
Sorry, that's a true what? Like, people
Yeah.
what are interested in that?
Yeah, the libraries that have it, I've heard from a couple of them, they said, well, yeah, of course. They're holding on to them because there are still members of their community who do use them.
Okay, sorry. I
And
just thought I missed
they are hoping that it will make it useful to have if they're going to continue to have them on the shelves for more people to use them.
Can I also get a stone tablet?
I know, I was gonna say, that seems.
And my concern is, I mean, it's so easy to corrupt that data and send it, we're sending it through a courier. I mean, we don't have it, it's not gonna hurt me one way or the other as far as this goes. But it seems like there would have to be some kind of waiver there.
Well, there's more than one way to get rid of VHS.
I don't disagree with you on that at all.
Well, and I mean, part of the recommendation would be the archival materials, because right now, I pulled some stats for this. There are 80 libraries that have VHS. Of those, 61 have less than 100 items. And if you go and look, it's usually something that's in their local history room.
I was gonna say, we probably still have some in the catalog, it's not there. Well, I'll fix that.
I think, I don't know, like,
220.
at Alexandria, some of the Disney Vault stuff, we did retain that, but it does not circulate, it's just kept.
Right. Well, so that was the idea. We have the media circulation modifier that's intended for rarer media forms, and it would continue to not transit.
Okay.
So if anybody had anything that they did not want to have transitable, they can move into that. But you know, we've done the checking before, and I think these numbers are a little off because I think we have a library that's using one of the circ mods unusually. I don't know. I have a hard time because they had in the last year and a half they had 60 circulations on something that's listed as a VHS, and they have hundreds of items that have more than 25. So I'm wondering if they are using video instead of DVD for some reason. I'm going to reach out to that library if that's the case, and see what might be helpful so that we could potentially
It's a
get
very
things back
popular
into
version of Hoosiers.
Director's cut.
a useful option. But
Reel to reel.
of the materials that we have, they're not circulating highly. 6 libraries have more than 1,000 VHS, so this might give them an interesting opportunity to even see whether or not it's performing as well as they thought.
And are they are actively wanting to transit VHS tapes?
I have talked to
Okay.
of the large to medium collections who are interested in doing that because
Share the wealth.
No, they're hoping
It
they'll
will
never come
give-
back.
Yeah. Oh,
it will give them an opportunity to be able to tell other people that perhaps it's time
Oh, okay, I see, okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
So-
Clever, okay.
Yeah. And
I mean, it
there are
worked.
still things out there that have not been released in any other formats, so I suppose do what you have to if you have something that is absolutely critical. But yeah, it's not a high surfing collection. This might help it. It might run it down.
It will add confusion to people who think they're getting DVDs though. Cause I assume my patrons never read everything, they just see.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, title. Sweet, I can place it on the hold, and then they're gonna get it and be like, what's this? You know?
It's so well.
I know they will,
And
literally,
then
I
we'll be
mean.
transiting VHS players.
I remember those, they don't make it rent, it's all suitcase. I used to like that.
Well, this could be an educational opportunity for patrons as well.
Yes.
See the little cassette tape?
I got no dog in this.
I was actually surprised when the library still had them until I thought about the, just looking into the archival aspect,
Right.
like say.
I guess for that sake, I can understand it.
100 here at the state library of things that
Gonna
don't
transit them.
circulate.
The Plainfield pipes burst over ours, so we got rid of all of them.
Oh.
That was an easy. Easy out
With our
there.
DVDs.
But yeah, I will be I'll be reaching out for a much more, a much deeper community survey with the libraries that are actively circulating their VHS and make sure that we're all on the same page before any decision goes to committee. It's been 2 meetings ago that you approved the change to the payment program disciplinary policy. We did have had one library lose consortium access as a result in Q3. They, without getting the bill addressed, so I'm working with their interim staff to get it back up, but they did have 3 notices before. So,
So they
hopefully we'll
still
get-
don't have access right now.
They lost it this morning.
Okay.
So my hope is that they will be back up and running this week because they were supposed to be cutting and sending the check last week.
Okay.
So you had direct contact with them.
Okay,
Sarah's not here.
Sarah's not here. She sent me notes. I'm just waiting. Are you okay?
Sure.
All right. End of October 27th. Logging committee's fall roundtable. It was on monographic parts. It was a tremendously long program for a roundtable. It was a lot of ground to cover. It involved coming up with revisions to the procedures guide on how to apply parts with media. And it was a very, very enthusiastic crowd, but it seemed to go well. And since then, we've been seeing a lot of pickup on parts, which in turn is helping holds and hopefully making the process better for everyone with the transiting DVDs in addition to magazines. Started. The cataloging manual, they have targeted to have a complete revised draft ready for review by the end of January. You should know it's 26 chapters long, so that's a lot for them to be revising. And at that point, then they'll go into formal review and are planning an official release after the March meeting, hopefully. The Cat 1 refresher for 2017, since we are in December, has been dropped in favor of getting started on planning a detailed Webclient based Cat 1 refresher. It will be much longer than the intended initial plan was for refreshers, where the idea was it would be an hour and we were done. This one is probably, they haven't decided yet whether it's going to be a half day or a full day. At this point, the idea was that there was so much that was different about the workflows. They want to take the time to make sure that everyone can cover everything. So it may be quite a work day.
In person, is this a webinar? Is it an asynchronous training?
Asynchronous, definitely.
Okay.
they are talking about the live options. Because when we did, when the 2015 class came out, it was available asynchronously to start, but then it was presented live. And it was a lot of people really wanted to take it live. So I think the plan is that both options will be available. I'm just not sure what the timing on the live class would be yet. And they are down a member, Lauren Pike, resigned from the committee just due to, she's very, very busy and didn't have the time that she wanted to devote to the committee, so. Hopefully we'll have her back once things quieted down. In the meantime, they decided not to refill the seat because we are coming up on elections here before too long again. I'll be opening the nomination slate in January. The content didn't meet today.
No, we didn't meet.
I will mention, I have been working with the spend out for the E&DM group, so anybody that cares. We had $42,000 to spend in December, and we're about halfway through right now, so we're getting there. Patron services, Britta?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't know if this thing's going to work, hang on. May need to change. Oh, stop sharing, that's fine. Just
Can you hear me?
I may not have turned. Right.
Can you hear me?
Why won't you play, guys?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? How about now?
Okay,
What's the volume?
86%. So I have messed something up here. I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
If were talking, Britta.
Is she muted?
No.
Oh, I see. Oh. Yeah, I can see you're talking. It's not coming through.
I'm here. I'm here.
Trying to decide which of these various devices is causing the problem. But still have the laptop speakers.
I can't, not right now.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
and he's got her headphones on again.
Can you hear me?
No, it's not that we're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Sound there, when she clicks, it's not.
It's not playing on anything.
I'm talking. I can see you, but I can't hear.
Little sound things. Oops.
Is this?
It's on.
Which colors, which?
Orange is.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me yet?
No.
How about now?
No. I mean, if they are, they're not working.
Well, yeah, I know.
How about now? It's okay. There's not that much going on.
Sorry, I thought I had this all set up before we got here.
Let's try.
You
You just type controls.
type it where?
Just type.
It's okay.
Who approves LEUs now?
That woman over in that office.
Sherry
Sherry. No. Like if I want something to
Used to
be
work.
approved for LEUs, is it still Sherry that does it?
I think so.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly quite sure.
Because I don't care.
Can you hear me?
Wendy, can I ask, if I have a speaker coming that I know that has been approved before for LEUs, do I need to get her approved, or
How long ago was she approved?
we had her at Sam's 2016?
Can you hear me?
She's probably still good. I think it's a 2-year thing, but I'm not 100% positive on that, so double check.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Does anybody else have a lot of experience with Windows 10, you know, any ideas?
Be the same
If I
kind
had
of
my way, the world would
experience.
still be XP. Sorry.
Speaking of stone tablets.
Hey,
If it works.
if I could have married XP, I would have. I love XP.
Can you hear me?
7.
I'm a
I
seven
like
guy.
7.
If I can.
I mean, if we're talking Windows, you have to love
Someone finally got to get Brett and she's gonna be like, we haven't met, I have nothing to report. We're gonna be like, okay.
That is exactly what I'm gonna say.
I don't get what they did, but I do get that they're wrong.
do it because of mobile things and they like this whole time.
Can you hear me now?
They tried with 8.
I know, but then 10 was supposed to fix it.
How about now?
Whoops.
It's funny.
I never thought I could say like 8 was better.
Oh, did you notice nobody mentioned 8 at all?
Nobody likes
How about
it.
now?
I don't know if anyone likes it.
Staying non-existent.
They don't, but
I thought Vista was bad.
They still.
It's okay. I don't have anything to tell
Well,
you.
until 8 came out.
that's why there was 7.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Finally.
Britta.
So, hi. So Jennifer was right. I have nothing to update. But I appreciate all the hard work you did. The Patron Services Committee is meeting next week. Again, nothing new to report since the last meeting, but we are actively updating the circulation manual to reflect the web client. And again, thank you for fixing this, even though it was very, very minimal information.
Well, then I should point out, Britta's done like half the manual by herself.
Yes. Thank you, Britta.
Very
I'm having
busy.
fun.
All right. Go back to that. Turn that on.
I didn't see what you did.
Yeah, he searched for it, worked on it.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Computers are like,
Can't get the copy to work. Oh, what'd you do? Press start.
All right.
Flip the red button.
Cindy and I have been out a lot, so I've not had a chance to sit
Sure.
down with her on this. So if you don't mind tabling this again, it's on my list. We will get that clarified, who will we have a reporting responsibility to.
And it's referred to outside agencies coming in and requesting.
Yeah, essentially what it is I just want CPS listed as an agency, so that there is no question in the future when something comes up, that there's no delay in getting into action and calling CPS.
And part of us learning our own mandate in those situations.
Right.
Okay, transit subsidies. One of the things that came out of the tour was just how many libraries, despite recommendations, still only have 1 day a week service. 23 as of this morning. I got the numbers from Jeremy. And an additional 42 only have 2 days a week. So, back to your packet, you'll find the budget from 2018, the one that you approved. One of the things I was thinking you might consider is repurposing some of the funds from 3 different sources: miscellaneous, the Hackaway, since we won't be hosting the Hackaway next year, and some money from the maintenance and equipment refresh, and a portion of funds from development, special projects, and utilize that instead to ensure that all libraries have at least 2 day a week service, so that we are getting stuff to patrons quickly. I didn't know if this is something you might consider doing as a 1 year, and then make it policy that libraries are required to have 2 days.
Can somebody
Or can
remind me what it is? It 175 for the first day and
100.
then, I'm sorry,
100.
100 for the first day? Which that's a deep subsidy in itself. And then
Yes.
there's the deep subsidy for Evergreen libraries to do the second day.
And all that lenders.
Okay, which puts it at the 300.
Yeah, 2 days a week is $300 for the year.
So these libraries, they're required to do $100 anyway.
Yes. They have to be in standards.
I guess I thought that we were required to have 2 days anyway.
It's highly recommended, but we have no say-so over individual libraries' budgets.
Are some of these libraries, will they have the staff to do 2 days? I mean, will that be impacted? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm assuming these are pretty small libraries.
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't think it would increase substantially their deliveries.
Are they?
Well, I know, but I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, they'll be doing it 2 days or how many ever days they,
We would,
I don't know.
you're talking about
Right.
subsidizing the 2 days, not going from 1 to 2.
You're talking about subsidizing all libraries in the consortium for 2 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
So the first.
So everybody,
Yeah.
larger.
If you needed more than that, it'd be on you. If you wanted to have it broken out by branch,
okay. I'm
those
sorry.
costs
I
would be on the
misunderstood.
individual library. But to at least guarantee that all of our libraries had
I think
2-day weeks.
for me, I would
branch.
rather see it on a scale.
Mhm.
Like my library, we're not gonna ask the consortium to pay for any of our transit stuff. Because that's a decision that goes into our budget. Now, we have the budget to handle that. And so if it's sliding there, I mean, there are libraries that can't afford to do 2-day, and then it makes more sense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know exactly how that works out, but.
Can we gift our second day to somebody? We do 5 now. We can pay for it. We don't need subsidies for that.
I'm on that small, we have 2 days, and this surprises me.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
can afford $300.
I was gonna say
We can afford
$300
for
out
2
of our
days.
budgets is
You're really only talking 200.
toilet paper.
$200.
I mean,
You're already-
sincerely, it's
Yeah,
toilet
You're already
paper.
spending 100.
I still think it goes back to Cheryl's point, though, that they, on those extra days, it's workflow issue.
Yeah, and
Right.
now that I can totally
Yeah.
see that. I mean, if you're not open the day, how do you
Right.
get the courier?
Yeah.
But wouldn't it
Well, we already have.
feasibly reduce or spread out your workflow?
I can't, I mean, I would.
Because I can remember at Alexander when we would ramp it up. I mean, I'd be hearing, oh my God, and everything, it just seemed to stabilize. It was never like this huge,
Right,
Mhm.
it
thing
always
that
finds
happened.
an equilibrium.
yeah, it always evened out.
I guess my reasoning behind this, or to bringing it back, was just how much chatter there's been here recently about long wait times. Not only within Evergreen, but in CERCs as well, where people are looking at it going, it takes 3 weeks for me to get things from these libraries because if you miss it here, and then it's taking
Anna,
really
do you
long
hear it
times.
more of it about Evergreen stuff, or is it more CERC stuff?
Because we've seen that with CERCs, but.
Well, I hear it in Evergreen too. I have libraries that say, oh yeah, someone mentioned while we were traveling, like, yeah, we tell patrons it'll probably be 2 weeks before their hold will come in.
See, and that's my line, I tell people it
Right.
can take 2 weeks,
I was gonna
but
say,
it never
I do the
does.
same thing and it never does, yeah.
Yeah, I know when I was at my library, we had 2 days a week. We generally had things in 7 days. But if you have 2 libraries that happen to be at the opposite spectrum of things, and that's where stuff's coming from, it is at least 2 weeks then before stuff is arriving. And that's not patron friendly. So the other option is to not do anything with the subsidy, but actually make it official policy in some way that members are required. We probably have to amend the bylaws or something. The members are required to have 2-day-a-week service.
I'm not opposed to a subsidy. I'm certainly not gonna turn down $300.
Yeah.
But would it be as effective if it were less? You know, do you think? I get what you're saying is making sure everybody's at 2 days, but what if it were just a token of it? Would it make it easier for you to go to 2 days if we gave you $100?
Right, or even pay the second day, but not the first day. I mean, that's a requirement for being part of resource sharing anyway. But then maybe do the second day. I don't know.
I would be okay with it as long as there's an end point to it, you know, that it is just, okay, for 1 year until you could get this as a part of your budget.
Right, you didn't.
Fine, if you really can't this time, we'll work it out with you,
Yeah.
but coming, you know, starting with our bylaw change, everyone is expected to have 2 days of service.
I like
Kind of
that.
easing people into it might work. And then people that don't necessarily need to take advantage of it, like I don't think we would need to, then that money can just be more of an opt-in thing, not just everybody flat out gets it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it kind of has the same feel to it as the membership fee, where it was
Ease people in, yeah. I just am wondering if, even if they got, kind of like what Cheryl said, even if they did get a second day, will it truly improve speed? Because if you don't have someone there to unpack and pack again, then the same stuff's gonna be sitting there, even though you get more stuff coming in the second day. You know, there still is that human just component to it. I'm just afraid with the really small libraries that don't have as much staff, that this might not really change turnaround time all that much.
I guess the
Does that
other
make
part of it
sense?
is, though, if you choose to be part of a resource sharing consortium, there means there are going to be increased workflows as far as your
Absolutely.
resource sharing go. And if people are wanting to participate in that way, then they need to participate.
I agree.
But
we can't really
I mean, no,
make that
no,
happen,
no,
so.
absolutely
I'm
not.
with one person, we're typically one person at the library, and it's not a burden to do
Okay.
courier service. Unless I forget to do it.
I have 15 minutes.
Oh.
I wasn't sure like the amount. Get so much,
Yeah.
it takes a lot
For
for us to do
As
it,
a frame of
so.
reference for us, it's 15 to 30.
Okay.
And two, a lot of these small places, their patrons probably aren't placing a lot of holds themselves.
That's true.
To be receiving, yeah, 30 would be very high.
Okay.
And the other thing we noticed was we have some libraries that are only pulling when they're prepping for transit. So holds are just sitting at those libraries without actually being, they sit through a full wait cycle before they're moved on to other libraries to be refilled, because the libraries are saying, well, we're not gonna be transiting, so why should we pull our holds? So there are multiple issues.
But they're also their patrons placing holds on their material. I know.
I think we should
This
figure
is
this
where
out.
I'm concerned.
What best practices do we have in place for transiting?
There are several.
Okay, I assume there were, I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure of what we spelled out as what we expect, you know, as all members of this.
Well, the expectation is, and this is every place, including not just procedures, this is in policy as well. Libraries are expected to pull holds every day.
Okay.
They're not. There are packaging requirements.
Which
We have to comply with Info Express and the
Zip ties.
media restrictions or expectations. They're expected to be shipped out in a timely fashion within a shipment cycle or two. If libraries sit on materials that are in transit, they do better.
I knew we did that, but I guess I'm trying to, are people following this, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Generally, once they're pulling holds, libraries are doing a good job of getting them out the door. Because, like you say, who's got space to have this stuff just stack up forever?
Absolutely.
So stuff's getting out the door once it's pulled, but it's not getting pulled consistently. And the fact that not quite a quarter, but nearly a quarter of the libraries are only getting service once a week means it is slowing down everyone's time.
Yeah.
So they're obviously
Okay, sorry.
shipping less than 4,000 parcels a year. Because the standards mean that you have to go up, because we just went to 5-day, because we went over to 10,000 limit. And we're shocked at how much we got on a Monday, because we just didn't do Mondays because it was a holiday thing. But
Well, the other thing that you all may notice, who've all gone up to 5 days, is you may be able to go back to 4 if 23 libraries go up to 2. Not everyone, because certainly you're probably there standing with as many
That's
branches.
okay, that's okay.
it's money-wise, it's no big deal to us.
Oh, yeah,
It's not that we're rich, but
even,
No, but it's part of the
It's just part of the
service.
cost,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we need to take some action on this today?
if you want to, I mean, the thing is, we can't, we don't have to have a decision until closer to October, because we are currently already into the career year, so it could wait, but if it does have to go to a bylaws amendment before you make a decision on whether or not to potentially subsidize, we'll need to know, it takes 6 weeks of actual
Well, you
voting
gotta put
time,
it in by October
plus community
1st, according to
education
this
time,
thing.
so we need about 3
So I
months
guess that's their
to
drop dead.
go forward with the bylaws update.
Thank you.
So by spring, it would be ideal if we've made some
Yeah,
movement on this.
because the first notices go for Info Express in June.
Another thing to think about, just as food for thought, for example, our membership fee is $500. So if you subsidize $300 on our courier, I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying that's something to think about, which way.
Yeah.
And that could be a great bonus.
No, it's a
but-
great bonus.
Hey, it's only $200.
Well, the thing about that, we did discuss that a little bit, thinking about things. You don't realize what you're not paying for.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
What you are getting back is more obvious.
True.
So we wouldn't want to just cut everyone's rate by $300.
No, I don't think you should either.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's just,
I may have,
just a frame of reference
uh,
of what my what our scale is on the membership fee and what you're looking at. Yeah.
I assumed you were taking that somewhere else, sorry.
No, I
Do you
no, I was-
feel that giving everyone a year to kind of ease into this, if people do need the easing in, would that be
I think that's a
beneficial?
very reasonable idea, yeah. Especially if you're going to require 2 days, then you're saying, because we're requiring these 2 days,
I want to give people time.
we're gonna, yeah.
Okay. You guys want to think on this a little bit more and table it till our next meeting?
That give you some food for thought too, as
Yeah.
far as. Does that give you some food for thought as well
Sure.
about?
I mean, and it's the sort of thing where it's an opt-in, we don't have to worry about coming up with nearly as much money either. So
That's a lot, really, a budget.
it's a good sized chunk.
Yeah.
Which is why I had it spread out across 4
Yeah,
categories.
yeah, that's right. I mean, that's.
It's a person. It's a person. And that could pay a person.
And you're absolutely right, Jason, we don't realize what that, because I've heard people say, how much it costs to be a part member. That's nothing for what you're getting.
Right.
So, new business. How's anyone going to talk about patch on the Webclient?
Oh, well, seems to have gotten fixed since I brought that up. There's a new installer. There's a problem with Hatch where if you used Hatch in the web client, the screen came up blank when you logged in. But that seems to be fixed with the new installer. I tried it last week. So problem solved.
And there are a variety of things that can give you what some people are now calling the white screen of death. Which is,
Every
That's what
color
it was.
seems so terrible.
yeah. So anytime something like that's going on, the new turn it off and back on again is to hold down the control key when you click refresh. And that'll basically reload all the files from the servers instead of using the cached versions. And if that still doesn't work, by all means, get a hold of an help desk. And if we have to, we can even do a remote desktop thing with you and see what's really going on.
Yeah, that was, so I don't know if you want to tell people, was it 103 installer?
013.
013. It's now, if you use that one, not the old one, you'll be fine.
Yeah, we're kind of holding off on the whole go get it until it's available officially.
Oh, okay.
Because right now that comment on the bug site is the only place to get it.
Oh.
Or from me directly.
Well, forget what I just said.
Well, we're going to have to
Everybody get
put
a
together some
launchpad
documentation.
Yeah,
Because
so,
it's in this process to install.
yes.
Okay.
Ruth was asking about putting together a new listserv.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be a listserv or whatever. I've had some conversations with people on the executive committee, I like to talk, and just about how information is flowing, things that we need to talk about maybe beforehand or whatever to kind of get a feel for what's happening in the community. So if we need to respond to issues with whether they're new members or whatever, people that we maybe need to reach out as their representatives, that not all that information is always getting out to where it needs to go is, I don't know, as fluidly as it necessarily could. I don't know if it would be a listserv or even just a confidential newsletter rather than the whole community newsletter that you do or something like that, or what. What do you all think? Actually, the listserv ideas, Anna came up with that. I was like, huh, that's actually a nice idea. Good job.
I like the listserv idea. It doesn't put work on anybody.
Right.
Mhm.
No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, it does. You guys, sorry.
Yeah.
Just tell Lisa to do
I'll
it.
just, I'll talk to Lisa about getting one set up then.
Okay. Are there any objections to it, though? I mean, is there any reason to not do that?
I guess let me know the point. Is this for things that shouldn't be on the public list?
Yes. This is for communication between
Are there,
probably
since you
people
guys
in this
are an
room.
elected board, are there any issues with you guys doing that?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Is there an issue with us having communications?
Oh, because that's listed on, if it's listed where we own it, it's all on the record anyway.
Okay.
Decisions should be.
Yeah, no voting or anything like that, just.
Discussion.
I
I
just
mean-
want to make sure it just isn't seen as like some secret
Right.
club that only certain people get to, which it kind of is.
It kind of
but-
is, yeah, I mean, but there are things that we places we need to be able to have conversations before we get into this.
I think it would violate open board.
You think so?
Because if you're discussing things and not making a decision, but discussing things and having conversations.
Then you have to advertise executive session.
Well, it's just, I think it's a fine line. I think
The
that's
perception
why
issue.
I'm concerned.
It's a perception.
Yeah, because I think if you have a discussion about any topic and then you come here and then everyone's already agreed or had a major discussion, then you're
Right.
violating that.
What's the, yeah, at least the spirit.
Yeah. And it's fine to have one as long as it's more, we want this on the agenda or.
See, that's
you know, that
more
type of
what
stuff,
it
but, yeah.
would be, not
Yeah,
a
do you
let's.
have examples?
There would be something, there would be things I would want to have on the listserv. So,
You know, we want to discuss library A's issue with this policy at our next meeting. Is everyone okay with that? I think
right,
that'd be
and have you
fine.
got the documentation so you understand what the issue
Not the
is?
director
Yeah.
said this, but I think this, what do
Right,
you think?
right.
That type of thing. I think that's where it would violate it, but.
Where's everybody going for lunch?
Yes, I mean, this, yeah.
It's almost like if everybody have the discipline just to not go into discussion. but-
I think in concept, I'm okay with it. But I could see how others could perceive that it's something top
I'm trying to
secret.
think how the oversight board, Evergreen Oversight Board does have an oversight board listserv. And I'm trying to think,
It's not that bad, isn't it?
it is, how it, and maybe that is how it is that.
Because then anybody can access it at any time and see what's been discussed, which,
But not everybody can join it.
Right.
So that people can read what has happened, but they can't all participate in the conversation.
For example, I guess, like today, there was the library that you were talking about that was out of standards. I don't know who it is. I'd like to know who it is.
Right.
Is that something we could share on that listserv before, without it being divulged here in a recorded meeting?
Or does that need to be executive? See, those are the kind of things that are not being communicated that we're missing. Do we
Yeah.
need to have built-in executive sessions? So that we can discuss those things and they're advertised correctly.
I mean, we could always submit something to the open access counselor and say, you know, description of what it is. But I think what you described, if it was sharing information so that the board members knew and then discussed it, then it's fine. So it wasn't, this library is out of standard, what should we do? But this library's out of standard, we're gonna discuss this, it's gonna be on the agenda of the next meeting. That's okay, but not someone proposing a solution on a listserv and then everyone kind of consenting or depending on
Okay.
whatever it is.
And that's a perfect example of, and a perfect explanation of.
Is that something that can be done when Anna sends out the,
I guess that's my
you know,
question.
are there any things you want to add, email that she does prior to the meetings? Or, you know,
No, what you're saying. I'm thinking about it.
Well, I know time is precious for everybody, but I wouldn't be opposed to meeting 30 minutes before every meeting just to have that quick, but that's just me. I mean, that wouldn't bother me one way or the other. Because I could see how a conversation could start off very innocently
Right, and then
quickly
Right.
be in violation. And I'm just not, our local school board has had a whole bunch of problems with this very issue, and I've seen how it's played out in the public, and it's not pretty. So I just don't think that's something I want to participate in necessarily.
I would feel more comfortable with it being an executive session that was advertised and says, and whatever, we'll have to figure out what we're talking about, because we have to say, we're gonna be discussing a library or something like that. But, yeah, I agree with that, because we can always just do an email group if it's just for lunch. We don't need
I
the
mean,
state,
that is a
we don't need
pretty
the state
important-
library to set that up for us, we're good.
Because I was gonna say, will it be snacks or anything?
Yeah, we'll learn.
Yeah, well,
Depends on where this half hour comes from.
Well, I was gonna say, could we start our regular meetings
Maybe
at
it needs to be
1:30
afterward.
instead of 1, and, start executive, if necessary, have an executive session at 1 and then start regular meeting at 1:30. I don't know if that would be too much time for you guys, but I'd almost feel more comfortable going that route than walking down a slippery slope.
You don't want to be a question mark away
No.
from ultimate problem.
And perception,
Even the
unfortunately,
perception, yeah.
means everything sometimes, so. Even if we aren't doing anything inappropriate or speaking about anything inappropriate, I think there still could be that perception issue.
So do you guys, is there anybody opposed to tacking that on there, 30 minutes? Maybe say, I mean,
would
I
just say
like at
when
1
necessary
o'clock.
too. I
Okay,
mean,
yeah.
so there might be some months that it's not necessary at all, so.
And do it at 1 o'clock and then start the regular meeting at 1:30? So Or-
Where you start an executive session at one time and the meeting will start.
immediately following.
That would be better.
That's what we
Instead of
do.
having to
Yeah,
sit here
that's
till
what
1:30.
I'm thinking 30 minutes sounds like a long time.
Yeah.
Well, just one caveat. People are going to tune in at a certain time.
Right.
So if it's 5 minutes one time and 25 minutes the next time, it's going to confuse people. I think we have to pick a start time to the
Yeah.
official meeting, just so folks,
Continue.
know.
Maybe the executive session could be immediately following the meeting.
Well, that's true
Can't take
too.
any action then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
We
we
have to
have to-
hold
Would
it
we
till the next-
necessarily have to until the next one? I guess we don't really know until we know what happens. Right.
But one would think prior to that, when Anna sends out her, if there are any things you want to add to the agenda, if something was that hot of a topic, we would
Wanna know.
be saying, hey, by the way, throw this on the.
Well, the last executive session we had too, I think it took 7 minutes. So maybe just 15 minutes would be sufficient.
You could even go as far as to say, planned 15 minutes, so it's never going to start before 1:15, with up to an additional 15 as needed.
We can have some great elevator.
Yeah. That way, people just let hangouts sit for up to 15 minutes, not only 30.
Okay, is this something that we need to take?
I don't
Like
Changing
think
it?
it needs to be an
action on it.
action,
Okay,
I
I didn't
just
think so.
need to make a note, start adding it.
Is that reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Regular meeting starts at 1:15. Basically.
Yes.
When necessary, yeah.
executive session when necessary starts at 1.
Thank you for bringing that up, though, Ruth, because I do think it's important to have some strong communications. And I'm like Monty, there's a lot of times things come up in the meeting, I'm like, I wonder who that was. Or I just wonder what that means or whatever, and I don't want to say it at large, but I do think it's important to know. So.
Well, potentially, not just out of curiosity, but if, as regional representatives, if
Absolutely.
it's someone in our area that maybe we could reach out to in some way.
Absolutely. Not just out of nosiness sake. Although I am kind of nosy, but not, there are
I
real
agree.
reasons
But
I
I
want to
think
know
as
these
a
stuff.
committee, we should be informed when we're talking about
Right,
topics.
yeah, when we're making decisions,
Yeah, we should be
we
informed.
need to have the information to make decisions.
Absolutely. Okay, I think we're going.
That's a great topic. Go for lunch.
Ruth, you want to start on this one and then I can?
Yes. So we had some discussions with Jennifer and some others about ways to get new directors at existing Evergreen libraries and existing directors at new Evergreen libraries included in the community, and to have a working understanding of how the governance structure works, and hopefully train up some new governance people. And so that morphed into inviting them to join us for lunch, potentially if they want to, and to also come to at least one executive committee meeting, but hopefully more than that. And so, tell me when to stop whenever. We're working on identifying who those people are, and invitations will go out, and I think that it will be for the February meeting, that they will have the invitations for that, and we'll send out the list to everyone so you know who we've sent it to, and who Jennifer is sending it to.
So I will be happy to put that together, and I will draft some language to be included and make sure you guys all approve before I send it out. Yeah, and it's not like I'm gonna send out an invitation to a kegger or something, but still, I want everyone's approval.
But if she does,
But if I do,
y'all are invited.
you'll be the first to know. But I think this is a good way to get to know more people, and I want the perception of us not to be this secretive, scary. I mean, I don't perceive it as that, but I think there are some that don't really know what we're
don't
doing.
even really think about it.
But you're specifically looking at new directors?
New to Evergreen.
New to Evergreen, and
New
new directors that have come to Evergreen libraries. Just because it's a group, everybody of course is welcome.
Sure.
But just to really target them, because people who have been in it for a while, they kind of, I'm assuming this is not necessarily true, that they've made a decision that it's not for them or whatever. And hopefully we can address that in another way. But this group right here, they really need to get tied in, whether they're coming on as new migrations or they inherited us in a new position. So.
And a welcome goes a long way. I mean, I think you guys do such a good job of getting everybody going. You know, they hit the ground running and it's awesome. But I think there's still a lot of questions about like who's really making decisions and how does it all work. And
we need to take responsibility for that.
Exactly.
You guys do a lot of work. We need to do our part too.
I agree. Are you guys okay with this?
Yes. Yes.
Any questions, comments?
Who's picking the cake?
Well, I guess if I'm sitting at the invites, I gotta work on that.
Just kidding. It will be at some place that people can get reimbursed for their
Okay. This is a scenario that's come up recently. Caused a bit of friction. Oh. I was able to pop in and ask Sylvia very briefly about it, and the final comment on here actually comes from her. So right now, we don't have anything in policy that officially says when an item is paid for in full, it transfers ownership, because honestly, I thought that was covered by Indiana law, but perhaps we need to be more explicit in the policies. So I wanted to get your feedback and see if this is something that I should be taking to probably patron services to be added to the circulation policy, if it is something that does need to be addressed in policy.
If it's an issue, it does need to be addressed in policy. So what money? Do you guys do that? I mean, if somebody pays for it in full, do they get the? Yeah.
In Alexandria, we did. If it was ours, I mean, I don't recall us ever doing that if it was someone else's.
Yeah, not if it was somebody else's. We would make them go through that library.
Yeah.
But we've had it in our library. We've sent it back to where somebody at another library damaged it, came back to us. They paid in full. We sent it back to them.
Right, and that's the issue here is that it happened at 2 different locations. It was patron at library A damaged the item that was owned by library B.
That's what happened in our case. They damaged it. It got shipped back to us damaged, so we could do the stuff. They paid for it. We sent it back to them. It was theirs. Congrats, it's damaged.
I guess I'm just wondering why owning the library would want it back if it was damaged.
Probably
I don't
for
really
spare discs for the replacement.
Okay, so this is probably one of those $99 library editions that people don't buy those things, people. Stupid. Don't buy them. Listen, you can buy a fully unabridged audiobook for $16.99, $25.99. It's stupid. If they lose discs, then you just replace them. It's just, I never understood that model that people do.
I know.
Stop doing it.
But that doesn't address the.
That was my take.
It's sounding right now like you'd be okay with me taking this to committee
Yes.
to address.
I'm still trying to, so the owning library wants it back just for them to keep or for their patron
What
to
they
have?
want it for is,
them to-
they
No,
look
for them
at it,
to
they've
keep.
invested $100 in this
But the
item.
patron just paid for the whole item.
Yeah,
That's
they
not
shouldn't get
ours.
it back.
They should get it back.
But their thing is they want it back, so when
Yeah, I was
they
gonna
order the
say.
$100 replacement, they have all these extra discs that
Yes.
they can slip in there. That's,
That may in italics
Yeah.
there
Yes.
needs to.
It was spoken that.
Yeah, I understand.
hold on, what did you say, Ruth?
Well, the may is in italics to like point out it may qualify. Well, I think that in our,
I
we
can see
all
that
agree that
between
that does qualify.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
unjust enrichment of the library.
That seems like that.
Well, and I've often, I'm gonna shut up, I'm not saying it.
We're all thinking.
Yes, I think it should go to
I'm
patron
not sure that
services.
it's actually spelled out any place, so, I mean.
I think
maybe
that we
covering
agree
the ground
to-
by actually putting words with this, but,
I think we agree to refer to patron
Yeah.
services.
okay.
I just think if somebody pays for it, then it's there, you know, it belongs to the patron at that, that's how I view it, that's how we've
Yeah,
always done
that's-
it, that's how.
Okay. Well, I
I
want to,
agree,
because you
we
guys,
probably didn't pay
yeah.
that much for it anyway.
most of you are directors, you know what the deal is with your assets and how you have to deal with them, so. Why I
So,
brought this to you.
while we're on this topic, it's always bothered me that, we get substantial discounts from Baker and Taylor. So when we charge people, we charge the full price.
We do,
not-
yeah. And sometimes, I mean, if it becomes out of print, we do have to pay that. Sometimes we have to pay more.
I mean, is that unjust enrichment? Does that count or qualify as that?
We only charge what we paid.
Processing. Think of it as your processing.
But most libraries also have a processing fee on top of that.
We get rid of
Yeah, we
that
do.
too.
We do.
So if your book was $14 and you get charged 24, we cut it's just whatever we paid for it at the time.
I always figure because you might not be able to replace it for the cost that you paid.
Yeah.
But I've always questioned that myself, even though that's how I do it,
Yeah, because if it happened to me, I would certainly use that to my advantage as the patron,
But I
knowing what
also,
I know.
but I also let somebody, if you can give me an equivalent
Right.
replacement,
We do that as well.
then I will
so.
let you do that.
I
And
would-
then we just charge them
We did not do
the
that in Alabama.
$5 processing fee.
And I don't charge the processing fee.
We
Well,
say
and
we
over
don't
time,
do
costs
that.
do go up. I mean, a
That's-
book that you bought 15 years ago was gonna be $10 at the time,
But are we gonna?
but if you buy a new book now,
But a
It's
DVD
gonna be
is
24.
not that same way, though. You can go to
That's
Walmart
true,
and get it for
different
the
medium.
$3.99 bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at Alexander, mostly DVDs anyway with books.
gives you flexibility then to work with interest.
And then do we replace the book?
And you know what's going to come up,
If you
like in
can,
secondary
I
systems?
don't, I wouldn't know what to
Well, this
replace
is
it.
damaged. Okay.
If Evergreen, there were 50 copies in Evergreen, I was gonna replace it.
There's what I think.
But we actually have policy for that. In that case, the library can choose to buy back their material essentially by refunding the patron, but it's outside of Evergreen, that's between library.
Refunds and the SBOA.
We don't recommend it.
If you bought it or you paid for it.
I was gonna say,
Well, that's
it's
what
yours,
I-
just enjoy
Because we
it.
used to, before we joined Evergreen, you could get it. And that, when we just told them no, that solves so many issues and problems.
Huh, okay, well, that's an interesting one. On the patron services, right?
Yep. And Ruth, this was from you, I thought?
It came out of another conversation. This is the thing. I just sent things to you that I was talking with people about. This came out of our regional directors meeting. We already do an auto delete for inactive patrons every, they've been inactive for a year or 3 years, and they don't have fines. This was actually a conversation with non-Evergreen libraries and how they deal with patrons with longstanding fines, 7+ years, and they get them. That's not money that's going to ever be recouped, but it looks like it's something that we can recoup. And so a couple of the libraries I was talking to were potential Evergreen libraries, and they want to know if this policy was in place. So that's why I brought it up as something to discuss the possibility of doing an auto delete for patrons who do have fines from 7+ years ago and have been inactive that long.
My first thought is not universally, no.
And I see where there would be problems with it, because then all of a sudden they show up again and they moved to Arizona and now they're back, and now nothing ever happened, and now they have an opportunity to do the same doggone thing again.
The libraries that are doing this, is there any limit on how much they're forgiving? I mean, is this the sort of thing where it's $10 or $500?
Anything.
Because the libraries that we've had do mass amnesties here recently, most of them put a cap. So $25, fine. Wipe those out. I haven't had anybody ask for complete removal to date.
Makes sense.
Again, this is, I know I brought this too, but it's not really. This is me just
We've
being
been working
aware.
really hard with people who were juveniles at the time when this happened. Mom lost, it was under the kid's name, but the kid couldn't drive and bring the books back themselves. We've been trying to work really hard with people who are now young adults and they have all these fines from 1998. We've been working really hard with them, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. I almost feel like it's kind of a case by case thing. I would hate to just flip a switch and it's done,
Right, and so that's what they are doing. They are auto deleting it. So
Being the one that would have to do it, the way I would like to see this considered, at least, if there is any of it to do, is that it would be something obviously that your library either does or doesn't. We clearly can't just tell everyone we're going to start doing this, in my opinion, anyway. And 2, everyone has the same rules that does it. So maybe it's only if they owe less than X dollars, and maybe you don't do lost item fees, that sort of stuff. It's entirely possible, given what all we do for the regular deletions. I would say it's pretty easy, but.
does anybody here really want to do it right now?
No.
Okay. In that case, can I talk to you afterward and just tell you the 2 libraries, non-Evergreen libraries I was talking to? Okay.
That said, I do see the value in cleaning up the database.
Yeah.
So are these all your particular patrons?
None of them are my patrons. They're at non-Evergreen libraries, and they're not
So you have
even,
no-
they're not even real patrons at this point. I mean, they are,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a potential Evergreen library. Somebody asking about how this is going to work,
Yes.
saying, we do this now
Yes,
with this, yeah.
yes.
Do you think that's really the tipping point for them?
Absolutely not.
Okay. That
No,
was the other thing I was
No,
gonna
no,
say. Okay.
they've already tipped.
So,
Yeah, we're good. But it is something that they're concerned about,
Gotcha.
so.
well, what we did at Alexandria when we came on, we didn't bring any fines over. We viewed it as a clean slate. Start over, yeah.
Well,
And I don't think they
are
wanna
very
do that
popular
either,
right now, but
so,
they
yeah.
generally seem to need to go through board approval.
Oh, yeah.
Oops.
So
was 9 years
would be
ago.
An option for a library coming in is to do an amnesty through you, Jason. Is
Oh,
that what
that's-
I'm hearing?
That's the easiest, we just don't bother, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, look,
yes.
there's a field we don't
But
have
I
to
mean,
populate.
but once they're already Evergreen, if they decided to do it, can be done.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
the
we've
back
had
end.
several libraries that have come forward and said, hey, can you wipe out all of these type
Yeah.
of fees from this far back?
So maybe that's important information to have.
I'll be sending you an email, or
Yeah.
just a help desk ticket through Bob.
With some fairly well-defined,
Oh, yeah,
like
no.
what we're talking about, but
I know,
all
the
fees.
words. Delete.
The other thing is that if you have any other reasons why you have patrons you need to retain histories of, those accounts have to be modified,
Oh, sure.
have bars and stuff placed on them. So every once in a while, we've got somebody who has legal issues or trespass orders that they need to keep track of in addition to straight up bills. Always fun. Okay, next one then is the foundation is spinning off the Evergreen monies into separate accounts. Which means we're going to be doing a lot more bookkeeping here in-house. But one of the things that has to happen, according to the feedback I got from the committee is, or the board, is that we need to have fiscal agents in-house that can then sign for things. Our discussion suggested that Jake and Wendy would be our best options, because then Jason or I can go ahead and create the request, Wendy could create the request, and we have a separate party to actually do the approvals. So,
So-
came and asked me to have you appoint someone.
So the foundation is still holding the money,
Yes.
and then you guys would operate as treasurer?
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
right now in a checking account, I don't have online access to, well, now, actually, now it's in checking account, I have online access to. Last year it was in checking account, I did not have online access to, so.
are you guys okay with being the fiscal agents? Does it need to be both of you? Does it need to be one of you?
it's
The
not,
reason I got both is because if I'm not here,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think both would be great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
You
it's
recently
fine.
updated your passport.
Being
It's going to South America.
Not even that. I mean, so far this year, we've had some 16 transactions.
That's fine. That's whatever. So-
Okay, and it doesn't require a two-signature check kind of thing?
no.
It's just-
Connie has even said she would be willing to be a third backup if she needed it. But
Let's just stick with two.
I was gonna say, we don't usually do that much when no one's here.
Yeah. Or if you guys were both out, like on a road trip or something, kind of put in a request and I could approve it, like, we could still handle it.
Do we need to ask the SBOA if there anything they want to weigh in on regarding this, just in case things we don't?
I don't know that it's covered by
Yeah,
SBOA because it's a nonprofit.
Foundation.
It's covered by local laws.
Can you outline this again, just because I'm
So we
thinking
could have an
this,
ISL foundation that's completely.
from an
separate.
outside point of view, somebody listening, I think this is a little confusing.
Okay, sure.
And
Starting with the collection of the membership fees in 2016, it's the first year we started collecting it. The
Right, but it's ISL foundation.
The lead fiscal organization has been the Indiana State Library Foundation. It is a not-for-profit. It has separate governance,
Foundation.
including a board and an executive director. All the funds then are also passed through an accountant, so that they are managed appropriately and are auditable, et cetera. The Evergreen funds, however, because they are not actually foundation money, have to be accounted for separately, and they have requested that we completely separate them. To date, the monies have been in the same account, so they've been pooled and they've just been digitally trying to split them up, and that's not always been convenient. Because if someone forgets to put a memo in a check,
Sure.
which account does this get funded to? So they would like to actually pull the money into two physically separate accounts and track the funds in and out of them separately.
And I
So,
think that's a good idea, to have Evergreen money and then foundation money.
so that's the goal. That's why they are planning to make this change, and why we have to figure out how we can get our money back out.
Do you need a motion at this point? That we're looking for?
Yeah, I think so.
I motion to appoint Jacob and Wendy as our fiscal agents.
I'll second that.
Oh, I was just asking if I had a motion.
Oh,
Who wants to make the motion?
Well,
I'll
I can
motion,
move,
she can second.
and then you can second.
Done.
Or whatever.
Okay. Who's like this?
But yeah, I think so. I'll fourth
Monty.
and then there was a steel-cage desk.
Scott, second.
Executive.
Or Ruth second?
It's all
Yeah,
good.
I second. I'll just second whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it sounds really early in my head to be talking about this already, but Evergreen International Conference.
Road trip.
Yay!
Absolutely. It is not a bad drive. They have scheduled it for the end of April into May, which means it should be absolutely beautiful. They closed the proposal window for presenters last week. The schedule should be available shortly. We have budgeted $5,000 for scholarships to send people from Evergreen, Indiana to the conference. Last year, we offered $100 pre-conference, $150 for one day, and $650 for people who attended the full conference. That included being able to go to the pre-conference. We had 9 or 10 people, I forgot to check my numbers on that, who applied and were granted scholarships. We did it via web form, and the applications were all run through the executive committee for approval. How would you like to do it this year? I checked and the prices are the same. So that makes
Was
a
there
difference.
a problem with doing it this way?
It worked really well, but if you have the option of changing it up, if there's something else, or if there was something that you thought of that you thought would make it easier.
Did we just put up the form on the listserv?
Yeah, I just
Does
sent
that have
that to
that word?
everybody.
Yeah, I just didn't remember.
Yeah, it went out in the newsletter, and I think it went out on support.
I'm a big fan if it works. Keep on doing it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Are you happy with these price points? Do you want to change that?
I think
I
that's
think it's
good.
fine. I
Think
don't
it's
see any
good.
reason to reinvent it.
Trying to think for that
Oh,
one.
I get it.
Since it's money, would you guys, can I get a motion, or have, sorry, Jennifer, can I get a motion?
Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second. All right, all in favor?
It was Cheryl.
All in favor to keep the scholarships the same as last year?
Aye.
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 Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But how far of a drive is that?
It is 5 hours.
5 hours.
From my house.
So.
You gotta start at Ruth's
Are you
house.
about an hour- are you about an hour
It's
away?
6 hours. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm an hour and a half, 2 hours from here. It's about 4 hours from you. So I drove there to
It's-
pick up my piano.
It's just on the other side of St. Louis,
Okay.
so.
It is St. Louis. I mean, I know they call themselves St. Charles, but come on.
It's kind of like Covington and Cincinnati. So, neighboring.
That's right. From here, it's about 3 hours or 5 minutes.
Okay.
So a little bit further drive than Cincinnati was, but Hopefully we'll be able to get some of the other people who are in southern Indiana to go.
No Woodbridge bourbon for me this year.
That's
I apologize in
that sounds like a
advance.
story for the list.
I was gonna say.
I'm pretty sure that was word reserved, and there was just enough.
There was no. Too much.
There was just enough.
Any announcements other than our next meeting?
And I did want to verify you guys are okay with the same schedule into the new year. Second Tuesday of the second of the even month.
This is gonna be during session.
I could just mention,
It's gonna be during session. What do you wanna do?
Well, does somebody else want to host it in February?
I can host it at Plainfield. If I can double check today the meeting room space, but I'm sure we can.
Lovely, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Put that down tentatively.
for those of you who are
We'll have to
interested,
figure out that.
we
Lunch.
circulated 650.
Oh, there's lots of.
Well, if we're inviting people though to come, if that's our first meeting we're having.
Seriously, Jason, this is
We
why we come to
circulated
this meeting.
652
It's
VHS
lunch.
tapes last year,
Last year, okay.
between the 12th and today.
We did that. Such an enabler.
Yeah, West Lafayette's got one of the largest collections, but you have a lot of stuff that's
You can't
academic.
get it off the floor because
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff never made it back in the day to DVD.
Yeah.
So most of us have saved their VHS machines because there's stuff that they can't get in other formats. It's not streaming, it's not. You want to, okay.
Don't you? Oh, you have one. Where you go from VHS to DVD.
Yeah.
That's fine for your home video.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
It's
sorry.
a copyright thing.
Oh, I'm not saying that we do that. I'm just saying that the technology exists in place. We don't.
So if you want to talk about that in the future, just let me know and
Absolutely.
I'm sure
They're
we'll
watching
do
it
it.
at home.
gladly.
Yeah, well, okay, I know you guys have that unique collection of them because I've looked at some of the titles that you guys own. I'm pretty sure
It's
it's because of Purdue that you
eclectic.
have them.
That makes sense.
It's porn.
Oh, wait, that's IU.
Not yet.
My bad.
I still have a meeting.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second.
I don't think I can do that, but.
Great, just straight to the we're done.
Straight to the Kinsey Institute, man.
All right.
I can't.
No, you can.
I can't. I was forgetting. I can? Well, the motion made.
Yeah, that's a discussion we've had. What I looked up was that the chair or president can make motions, it's just frowned upon.
Okay, well, sorry, don't.
Oh,
we're good, we're
Right,
leaving,
so
okay?
we have a bunch of rules and then we have etiquette.
Yeah.
I move that I'm personally okay with it, but I.
And I'll second.
I vote in favor
Hey,
of
Jason.
Scott's motion about himself.
So let me.
Bye, everyone.
This is what I'm putting in for that.